For context, if you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, basically, Song of Saya is a horror visual novel, and in it, the main character gets into a really fucked up car crash that kills his whole family, and so suffers some really awful brain damage that actually alters his senses, like all five of them, to make everything taste, smell, touch, hear, and sound as awful as humanly possible. So this includes like the walls and shit. Whenever he tries to go to sleep, he's sleeping in a sheet of like flesh. And like people make these awful gurgling noises because they're just, to him, they're not people. They just look like fucking writhing flesh monsters. But like there's this one person who shows up, and she's like this, she looks like she's like maybe 10, and she's like, "Aren't you afraid of me?" And he's like, "Nah." And her name is Saya, and she looks like this normal girl, but also like to him she is like an angel because she fucking shows up, and contrasted with all the flesh walls and shit, she is like the only thing that looks normal, on top of the fact that she's wearing a white dress. It doesn't like, but like he like casually brings her home, and like with the day he gets discharged from the hospital, he's like, "You want to come home with me?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." And like she's like looking for her dad or whatever the fuck, so he kind of uses that as an excuse to be like, "Yeah, I'm helping her look for her dad," but like then he brings her home and like has sex with her like a lot, and it's like really gross, fucked up, and weird, and like awful because of their fucking family dynamic, I guess. But like the story itself is good. It's just like I don't like him. Also, to be fair, fucking the point of him being a pedophile, effectively, is to show that his relationship with this character is just making him a worse and worse person. Like, if you're gonna check it out, I would recommend you didn't, but if you check it out anyway. It starts off as bad as pedophilia, and then it only gets worse. Like, I would argue the only thing that's just as bad as pedophilia, genuinely, is cannibalism, and it kind of gets to that point. It just slowly gets worse and worse, and I don't like the main character, and it's really, really fucked up. And I think the bad ending of the game, honestly, genuinely stuck with me. I feel like cannibalism is like on par with like some of the most depraved shit. I feel like it's different if you like, I feel like there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to like cannibalism and pedophilia. Pedophilia is like, it's like a fetish, and you're doing it to like for the control of like being over this person who clearly has so much innocence, or so much to the point where like you have to show them the ropes, and that's where pedophilia is like super fucked up and gross. On top of that, they can't bear children or anything. They're not old enough to be able to do some stuff like that, but you're making them do it anyway. That's why pedophilia is so gross and evil. But cannibalism, I guess you can argue, is a little tamer, only because if push comes to shove and I'm trapped on a fucking island or whatever, and the next person next to me is like, "Oh, I'm dying and I know I'm not gonna survive, and you need to survive, and there's nothing else to eat besides my flesh," yeah. My main issue with the fucking story, genuinely, is the main character. Like, the main character is not a good person. You don't sympathize with him whatsoever. And as the story goes, it feels like the writer is trying to make you sympathize with a murderer slash rapist slash cannibal slash pedophile. And it's like, no, I can't, I don't. And sorry, sociopath too, because like there's a moment where he is like talking to his friends, or his so-called friends, and because they're flesh monsters and shit, he just cannot fucking stand their voices and shit. And he is aware, he is fully aware, he says it's not them, it's him. He is fully aware that it is a mental issue with him. It's him having cognitive problems. But when he hears his friend talk, he literally says, "Damn, I really want to beat Goji's head in with a chair." Like, he's not a good person. Genuinely, I think you should give it a shot in term, like have somebody watch somebody review it, like watch an explanation of it. Don't actually sit there and waste 4 hours of your life. Like, it's fucking weird. Though I guess if you want to, my only upside to actually sitting down and checking it out is that it is a good game with a pretty good story. The music is pretty good. Like, it's got pretty good vocals and shit. Like, the music sounds like hymn like, and it sounds very like it sounds like it sounds nice, but it also has like an air of like something's wrong. The visuals are also pretty neat. Like, all of them are really fucked. Like, it's you have the regular world, and then you have the hell world, or the flesh world as we call it, which is like this awful dimension. It's not a real dimension, it's just what the main character is seeing, and it's really, really fucked. Like, it's the world itself gets pretty gross and awful. But if you want to check it out, to give you a good like, when I say the story is good, like, the story is good, it's just the main character's awful, or the main characters are bad. Like, fucking the writer for it is the person who made Madoka Magica, and I don't remember what the other thing he made was. I think it was Psycho Pass. The visuals are also pretty neat, like, but like, the writing's good, it's just like also overshadowed by weird shit that doesn't need to be in there. Like, it's a visual novel, and most of those are just straight up porn, so like, don't be surprised with the amount of weird shit. I just would not dedicate 4 hours of my life watching reading a book, I guess, because that's what visual novels are. They're not games, they're fucking, you might as well just be reading a book at that point. You know what the funniest part is? I'm glad that you brought that up, because, like, since I'm talking about it, I might as well fucking explain the whole story now. But after he gets out of the hospital, he is fully aware that this cognitive problem is going to affect his life in some really bad ways. Like, it makes everything as bad as possible. This includes socializing, touching stuff, and eating food. And he still has to eat food and, like, shit and, like, wipe his ass. So, like, he's sympathetic in the way that it's like, damn, I really wouldn't want that shit to happen to me, but he stops being sympathetic when he's like, yeah, no, I'm fully aware that this is a problem that is a mental and, it's a mental thing. And he actively refuses to go to a mental hospital because of the argument that he doesn't want, like, doctors and shit using him as a guinea pig and experimenting on him and shit. Like, he would rather, like, just be free to do whatever, not realizing that being free to do whatever with this mental state is going to make you a worse person. He stops being sympathetic but basically to explain the characters, there's the main character, his name is Fuminori, and he's like a college student. And Saya is like this girl who's like, she looks like she's 10. We're gonna get into why I'm saying she looks like she's 10 in a minute. But he also has 3 other friends. I think one of them's name is Koji, the aforementioned Koji, who is like, he's basically the blonde kid from Corpse Party, but like a 20-something-year-old. Koji's girlfriend, I believe, is Yomi, I think, and their friend is Yo. Yo has a crush on Fuminori and is like super innocent. That's gonna come back later in some awful ways. Fuminori cannot stand any of them because of how fucking, like, their voices are, their voices are ear rape. Everything about them visually is disgusting and just not visually pleasing to him whatsoever, so he just cannot stand being around these people. Truthfully, in real life, if I had a condition like this and it was incurable, I would commit suicide. I would not be doing. But like, the only thing that basically makes it bearable for him every day is like the reason he doesn't just commit suicide, even though he fully definitely wants to, is because like he goes home and Saya's there and she has like a normal voice and it looks like a normal person. So he's like, all right, I guess it's cool. And Saya is saying that she wants to like find her dad or whatever the fuck. Not really explaining anything about her dad, just that he was a scientist, which is interesting in itself. And so Fuminori is like trying to figure out like where her fucking father is and shit, all the while having sex with her. It's not like he's raping her. It's like it's fucking consensual, but it's also like, you know, she's still like looks like she's 12. But on that topic, everything kind of just comes to a boiling point when Yo confesses her feelings to Fuminori, and he just kind of actively, like, he just breaks down, like, he just falls apart. He's just like, yeah, no, I know you asked me out before, and I didn't really give you an answer, but now that I've had time to actually think about it and get a good view on how I view you, no, I think you're really awful, and I hate you, and you're disgusting, and also basically, like, I really hope we don't see each other again. Like, it would be too soon. So fucking Yo breaks down and cries and goes to their other friend because fucking Fuminori's a dick, as it turns out. And so she goes to Yomi, and Yomi's like, wow, Fuminori's kind of an asshole. So she goes to his house so that she can, like, should give him a piece of her mind. And for context, Fuminori's house is, like, kind of really fucked up, only because in his perspective, everything is flesh. So him and Saya came up with a cute little thing to paint his house like an assortment of colors so that in his, like, fucked up visuals, it can look somewhat appealing. But in the real world, it doesn't look like appealing at all. It just looks like the windows are blacked out and shit. It looks like an insane person's house, basically. Like, Fuminori is an insane person, clearly. And Yomi just kind of pieces that together, like, immediately. And when she gets into his house, she doesn't see his shoes at the door. So she's like, oh, he's not here. But she hears a voice, like a really awful, evil, gargled voice, saying, like, distorted voice saying, welcome home. So she can't really put it into words, really. Like, but she describes it as, like, something slimy and, off-putting is, like, constantly in the corner of her eye, and every time she looks, it's just not there. So eventually, she walks into the fucking kitchen or the living room or something, and Saya kills her. And Saya doesn't just, like, kill her. She does kill her, but, like, the way it happens is, and I kind of took inspiration from a little bit of the story to make fucking Love Thy Neighbor. When Yomi dies, she doesn't even register the pain of being ripped open because what she sees makes her go mad. And then, like, Fuminori comes home and is like, and Saya's like, oh, he's gonna be pissed at me, but she's, like, eating something, and Fuminori's like, what you eating? Mind you, Fuminori's only seen, Saya only goes outside at night. Saya also does not talk to anybody but Fuminori, and also, Fuminori's never seen her eat. So, Fuminori's like, what you got there? And she's like, oh, it's food. And he takes a bite out of it and actually thinks it's great and, like, amazing. Like, it's delicious to him. Basically, the idea is that Fuminori's senses have been completely flipped. So, everything normal is awful and disgusting and horrible. And everything awful, disgusting, and horrible is made pleasant, basically. You could probably put 2 and 2 together to where I'm going with. So, Saya eventually is like, yo, Fuminori, I think I can cure your condition, but I'm gonna go and try and figure it out. But I need you to pick up some stuff for me. And Koji, I guess, watches Fuminori enter an abandoned house. And when he follows him in and like looks around, he sees a bunch of books and shit, and some of the books are like arcane shit, like stuff you would like satanic shit, like weird and sciencey shit, but like it's like alchemy books essentially. And then Fuminori catches him and is like, dude, can you fucking mind your business? So Komi, or Yomi I think is her name, fucking hasn't responded to fucking anyone in days, so Koji's worried because that's his girlfriend. And fucking Saya's like, yeah, I'm gonna help Fuminori out with something. So she goes over to this man's house, this random guy's house, and she does a little bit of trolling. This man is a nice normal human, like a normal average dude, who fucking has, like, you know, pretty good family life. And then Saya comes and fucking lobotomizes him, and in lobotomizing him, she changes his perspective to be like Fuminori's. And so the guy sees his wife and daughter. His daughter's like 10, and he murders them both because he just sees them as awful, disgusting flesh monsters. And then Saya walks up and is like, "What? How do you view me?" And he's like, "Oh," he like thinks she's like the most beautiful thing ever. But also this is where like that gets into the whole Saya perspective thing. For the most part, the story takes like part in Fuminori's perspective. So when this man just starts like raping Saya, you're just like, oh, he's raping a child. Well, I guess he's not, because Fuminori sees her as this pretty child, but this guy doesn't. So probably, I don't know. I can guarantee nobody sees Saya the same way. There's no way. There's no way in hell that they do. There's absolutely no way. But like, you know, she's like getting raped by this random dude, even though I'm gonna explain why that's bullshit later, but she couldn't overpower this man, and then Fuminori comes home, sees him raping her, and he murders the guy. And so she's like, oh, you know, I try to make him like you so that you could like see if everybody is like that, and no, it's not. And so fucking she's like, yeah, I can actually cure your illness, and like this is where the first ending of the game can happen. If you choose to cure Fuminori's illness, she lobotomizes him too, but he gets like everything's fine, like he's back to normal. But then he also murdered a guy, so he like turns himself into the police and shit, and like goes to a mental hospital, ironically. And Saya like comes to him, and like he hears like slimy gurgling and shit, and she like slips a phone under the door to his cell and is like, yeah, I'm not gonna really come up to you, I want to preserve what you think of me and shit. Like, it's okay, it's pretty nice, but also I don't sympathize with Saya for reasons I'm gonna get into. So fucking if you don't choose that, then Fuminori's like, yeah, I'd rather like live out my awful, disgusting life as long as Saya's here. Again, her relationship with him is making him a bad person. So fucking Fuminori is like, yeah, I'm gonna just cut up this body, and he does, and it's a fucking it turns into like food to him, and he's like, oh, so we're eating people basically. And she's like, yeah. But he also, like, actively calls her out, and he's like, yeah, so you can actually cure my illness, and human doctors can't do that, so you're not human, are you? And she's like, no. But he, like, is okay with it for some reason. Also, interestingly enough, there's one character I just failed to bring up, and the character in question is basically, like, Fuminori's psychiatrist, I think. And so his psychiatrist is like has actually done a lot of research on this arcane bullshit. So Fuminori like decides he's gonna just like kill his friends, because he's like, yo, no, Yo is, or whatever her fucking name is, I forgot her name, Yomi is gone, so I don't know where she is. That's weird. But we gotta get rid of any stragglers and shit, and for some reason Fuminori just decides the best course of action is to kill Yo and Koji. So Saya fucking goes on the phone and pretends to be Yomi, and like calls fucking Yo and has her come to the house, and at the house, Saya does some really fucking weird shit. We're gonna get into it. I'm not gonna describe it in detail, but like for all intents and purposes, she does a really bad thing. Not murder, the other really bad thing. So, to continue off where I was, fucking Yo got raped by Saya, and Saya is definitely some kind of awful Lovecraftian monster, so I'm not even gonna, we don't even know what she did, definitely. But to explain it later, to kill Koji, Fuminori's like, yo, Koji, I know we don't hang out as much like we normally do, well, normally did. Like, we don't play video games, we don't chill, we don't just talk about women. We should hang out in this secluded area in the fucking woods 2 hours from our house, 2 hours from our neighborhood. And Koji's like, okay. So they fucking go to this neighborhood or whatever, this forest in the woods, and Koji's hanging by a well, and he gets a phone call from Yo, and Yo is like talking about how she can't, like, something's wrong with her body. Yo basically on the phone is like distorted, like it sounds like Saya basically. Like Yo on the phone is like saying that her ear fell off and like her skin is melting and shit, and like she's in like a lot of pain, but she also can't really, she doesn't know what the fuck's going on with her body. So Koji's like, alright, where are you? And before he can really even get an answer, Fuminori pushes him in the well and then takes the cell phone and takes out the batteries and throws them down there and just leaves Koji to die. And Koji's like, wow, fuck this dude. So Koji's down there for an entire day, just like yelling for help. And in the meantime, Fuminori goes back home and is like, alright, I killed Koji, now what do I do about Yo? And Saya's like, yo, I got a present for you. Now, remember when I said Saya is not a good person? Fuminori has his way with Yo, and so Saya shows Fuminori Yo after what she did, and to Fuminori, Yo looks like a normal fucking person, but she's naked and shit. So Fuminori's like, whoa, what did you do to her? And she's like, I kind of transformed her body to be like mine. Basically, and he's like, how the fuck did you do that? Basically, whenever they would have sex, fucking Saya would drink his nut, and in doing that, she was able to process, and I guess she would also eat people, so this would also help with that. It's not just cum collecting, I guess. But Saya would be able to process the human genome, so she's able to mold humans to fit a different image. Yo, and Yo. Now, remember when I said Saya is not a good person? Fuminori has his way with Yo, and Yo tries to like squirm away, but she's like wriggling around like a weirdo. And Fuminori's like, what's up with that? And she's like, oh, Yo's just, her mind got completely fucked up during the process. And it's so bad that it's like, Yo cannot process how to move her limbs and shit. So Fuminori just completely takes advantage of her. And it's like, yeah, no, Fuminori's a rapist now. And also he's like a fucking, a sadist, because he like beats her and shit. And he's like, it's not good. But, yeah, again, Fuminori's not a good person. But during Pillow Talk, Saya's like, it'd be great if the entire world was like this. I thought it would be good if I just, turned people, made them have a perspective like you so that everybody can see me beautiful. But no, what really needs to happen is everybody needs to, be changed to fit your eyesight, basically. Your senses. And Fuminori's like, that's a great idea. Basically, to make a long story short about what Saya's plan is, she's trying to destroy humanity. Like, Saya is not a good person. I'm prefacing that for what I'm going to explain later. But no, for now, just know, if it wasn't obvious, that Saya's long-term goal is to destroy humanity, essentially. So the psychiatrist comes up, and she comes up to the well, or whatever the fuck, and Koji's like, oh shit. And it was because Koji, I guess, texted her his location beforehand, and then Fuminori pushed him in the well. He sent her the location just in case. Like, so Koji for the win. Koji's the best character. Well, the doctor is the best character because she jumps into the well and then they start looking around and there's like an entire underground thing down here with a bunch of symbols and shit over the on the walls, and she tells him not to look at the symbols because looking at them makes his head get fucked up and hurt, and he like passes out because of it. And she pulls out a shotgun and she finds a document, and it basically shows fucking Saya's father in question was a scientist. So Saya's dad is not actually her fucking dad, obviously. He's a dude. Basically, he is a scientist who discovered Saya, or I guess created her, or whatever the fuck. And he basically explains that he thinks that she's like some kind of alien reconnaissance drone, and her goal is essentially to change all life on a planet. Like, her goal is to terraform the planet, basically. And in doing so, it makes everything like in her image. Like, it's supposed to do that. So the doctor, I guess, was like, no, that's fucked up and evil, and I unleash this upon humanity, and he like kills himself. So fucking Koji is like, alright, we gotta find and defeat Fuminori. So Koji goes to Fuminori's house while Fuminori and Saya are out doing whatever, and he discovers that Fuminori's refrigerator has like refrigerated corpses and shit in it, and he's like, oh, they're eating this shit. And he also sees Omi's ring on it, like their engagement ring or whatever the fuck, because I think they're married, I don't fucking know, but he basically just uses that as his ammunition to get pissed off to want to kill Fuminori. And Fuminori is out shopping for an axe, because he's like, alright, we gotta kill Koji, because Koji, I guess, didn't fucking die when I pushed him in the well. And so Fuminori is like, gets an axe, and from his perspective, the axe looks kind of awesome. Like, it's an axe with like an eyeball on it. It's a flesh axe with like an eyeball on it. It's kind of cool. But also he's like, yeah, you know, in real life it's a fucking axe. He's a psycho. And so Saya's like, yo, you should try and like test out that axe to make sure it doesn't like break or anything. Test that out on Yo. Her body's like mine, so she can take a lot of damage. And Fuminori here is a fucking piece of shit hypocrite, and so he's like, yeah, I don't really feel comfortable swinging an axe on Yo, because to me she looks like a normal person and not a disgusting, evil, gross flesh monster. And Saya's fucking offended because she is quite literally that. That doesn't go anywhere. It's just funny to see that if his perspective of her was normal, he would think of her exactly how he thinks of everybody else, basically. Fuminori is not a good person. I don't sympathize with Saya at all. She's an evil monster who's trying to destroy humanity, but this is where like the last two endings of the game, there's only 3. The other 2 endings of the game, one of them, if you fucking choose as Koji to confront Fuminori immediately, then he goes to them, he fights Fuminori with like the axe, and he actually is like beating his ass, and he kills Yo because Yo is like a disgusting Shogoth, I guess, and he like cleaves her with an axe or like a pole after he shoots her with a revolver several times, and it doesn't kill her, but he like fights Fuminori and is actually whooping his ass, but then Saya comes, ties him up with her tendrils, and like breaks his neck. Which is also part of the reason why I'm like, no, there's no fucking way she like like there's no way the middle-aged man was able to overpower Saya and yet Koji couldn't. Like, that's some bullshit. So she definitely got raped on purpose so that Fuminori could commit murder. Like I said, Fuminori becomes a worse person because of her. But, yeah, so in this ending, in the bad ending, she kills Koji, and then she starts, like, falling apart because, and Fuminori's like, oh no, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, you got me pregnant, fucker, and also, like, our babies are gonna be born, and I gotta terraform the planet, I'm gonna leave a really nice message for you. And when she like blooms or whatever the fuck is what it says, Basically, she looks like her body starts coming apart and turning into like angel feathers and shit, and like petals. Obviously, I imagine like for Fuminori, it's gorgeous, like beautiful, and as opposed to like how it probably actually looks, which is awful and indescribable. Yeah, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna bloom and make everything beautiful for you, Fuminori. And then the fucking doctor in her bunker is like, alright, I'm done writing my book, and the world is completely fucked, and I'm the only human left, and everybody is dead or turned into a flesh monster, so I'm done writing this book. This is the last thing. I'm gonna just take all my booze, drink as much as I possibly can, and then join the new world. See ya, and that's the bad end. Literally, the bad ending, Saya fucking terraforms the Earth and destroys humanity. Like, humanity, like, Saya's not a good person. And I've had friends going, oh, you know, Saya's pretty good. Saya's a nice person. I like Saya. And I'm like, no, dude. Saya's fucking evil. You also find out from the bad ending, I think, because the bad ending actually explains all of Saya's lore. Basically, Saya is implied to be a creation of Yog-Sothoth from the Lovecraft mythos, because fucking something is mentioned in the documents with the old man that that he found something called the Silver Key. So it's implied that, which is an artifact in the Lovecraft mythos. So it's implied that Saya is a Shoggoth, just because of the way they describe her. But the difference is, like, she is, like, sentient and shit. Like, as opposed to Shoggoths in the Lovecraft mythos. She is, like, sentient, and also she's a reconnaissance... They say that she's a reconnaissance drone, and she's trying to, like, terraform humanity, which Shoggoths do not do. So, she might be something else, but it's implied that she's some kind of Shoggoth, or some kind of amorphous creature. Fucking... So, in the good ending, which is the best ending, probably, Koji calls the psychiatrist instead, and the psychiatrist pulls out a shotgun and comes to Koji's rescue as he's being tied up by Saya with tendrils, and she shoots Saya in the fucking face with the shotgun, and Fuminori's like, no, fuck you, and he takes the axe and cleaves her down her chest, and in the moment, her last moments of life, she's like, nah, fuck Saya, and she blows Saya's fucking brains out, which, nice. Good job. Best character. And Fuminori, in fucking awful evil panic, is like, no! And he, like, takes the axe and, like, cleaves himself in the forehead twice and dies. So, yay, good ending. And then Koji is, like, years later, traumatized, and is like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking... the only comfort I have is a single bullet in a revolver that I have at all times. And, that's Song of Saya. I fucking hate parts of the story, but overall the story's pretty neat. Knowing that it's in the Lovecraft mythos kind of gives me the Dead or Alive effect, where it's like, now I know that this set in the same universe where people are, like, fish people in fucking Innsmouth somewhere in Massachusetts, like... Now I know Cthulhu is somewhere under the fucking ocean, I guess, in this universe. Yeah, I guess, to explain it quickly, Saya is a fucking cum-collecting tentacle monster, and her only purpose is to have sex, and then fucking, terraform Earth. Like, that's literally it. She describes it as being, like, instinct. Like, that's the only thing that she has as her genuine purpose. It's fucking weird. The thing about it, the funny part about it is people will try to defend Saya's actions by saying, oh, well, she's just operating on instinct and she's just a wild animal and also she's like naive and shit. But like, I feel like her naivety is definitely a fucking farce. And that's only because of the rape scene. Like, it's so stupid that it's like, you cannot defend her actions. I feel like once she kills Koji and does what she does to Yo, not to mention lobotomizing the guy who raped her anyway, it's like, no, she definitely did all of that shit was pre-planned. Like, my theory around it is that Saya feigned rape, like she did it on purpose, so that the guy could do that, so that Fuminori could kill him and be desensitized to murder. Like, it would keep him from, it would make it okay for him. Plus, he eats the guy, so he's desensitized to cannibalism now that he knows that that's what he's doing. It's like, Fuminori will do it if Saya says, do it, please, pretty please. Like, people will try to defend her actions by saying, oh, well, you know, she's just a child. It's like, no, she is still evil. She is still trying to kill humans. She's still trying to destroy humanity. She eats human flesh. Like, I can't tell you anything else about that. Now, the pedophilia thing, you can argue is Fuminori. Like, that's him being fucking weird. But also, like, come on. Like, bro, when Hellboy did it, at least he wasn't aware of what he was doing. At least he didn't know that shit was gonna happen. But no, when Saya does it, that's like her only purpose and the only thing she's actively going out of her way to do. Like, the funny part is, in the story when they're describing the experiments that she would do before she met Fuminori, like when she was with her dad and shit, they basically were like, oh, she would basically ask people for, like, she would ask for semen of different, various species and shit, and eventually she read books and shit that she had to find love in order for it to actually matter. So, technically, her being with Fuminori, not only is she manipulating, but she is also, like, getting him to do what she wants so she can destroy humanity. Like, I can't stress that enough. She is trying to kill all humans. And, like, a lot of my friends who defend Saya's actions are just like, oh, you know, well, she's a child and whatnot. And I'm like, no, you perceive her as a child because that's what Fuminori perceives her as. She is a monster and she's trying to destroy humanity. I feel like it's bad that I have to state that she is trying to destroy the human race. Like, I'm actually, like, super glad you agree with me on that, too. Like, I feel like whenever I talk about this series to anybody, they always defend her actions. And I'm just like, you can't defend her actions. Obviously, they can't defend Fuminori's actions because the writing was supposed to be around, moral relativity. That's what it is. Like, it's supposed to be like, oh, well, you know, this would have been okay, like, fucking children would have been okay back in fucking Greek era, but it's not now. It's like, no, it's still gross and evil. It was gross and evil then, it's gross and evil now. It's like, technically, if you want to get technical, it's a horrific love story, essentially. Like, if Saya wasn't, like, didn't look like a child to Fuminori, then it wouldn't be as depraved, and I would probably be on her side a little bit more. But since her presence is causing him to act like a fucking psychopath, he kills people, he eats people, she's enabling him to be a worse person. Like, basically, like, when he abuses Yo after raping her, it's like or during it, actually, it's like you are actively enabling him to be a sadist and to hurt people. And you are being okay with him just being able to beat and brutalize people. Like, the moment when she gets offended by him saying that thing where he's like, you know, she's a disgusting fucking flesh monster to me, so fuck her. It's like, it's like not okay, because, like, at that point she should have pushed boundaries at least and was like, dude, I am literally a disgusting flesh monster. Everybody else is actually human to you. Just because you view them as disgusting flesh monsters does not mean they are not people. And in the same vein as me, you view me as a person, but I am still a disgusting flesh monster. So the hypocrisy is there. Quite literally, they are both really, really bad people. I'm not gonna argue that Fuminori is worse since his end goal isn't to kill humanity. His end goal is to do whatever Saya wants and to be happy around her, but he is still a really bad person since he thinks children are sexy, he thinks humans taste good, and he thinks it's okay to just want to beat his friends to death. Like, Fuminori is not a good guy, and I don't understand how anyone can sympathize with him. I've seen comments online where people are like, he's me for real. I'm like, no, he shouldn't be. Moral relativity is the idea that, like, something you do can be justified no matter how bad it is, and it really depends on the circumstance. Like, whatever the opposition is could probably be worse, which would give you justification for your actions. So, like, for example, if Peter Parker chose to save Mary Jane instead of the children, he let die the children, the Green Goblin is not as bad as him because he actively chose not to help children. He chose to save his own girlfriend. But in that sense, it's also the moral relativity because technically I'm saving my wife, my future wife. The one, like, there's no guarantee that I'm going to find a woman like her again, and this man just tried to kill her. Like, it's also the moral relativity with Batman. It's like, is he a good person if he kills the Joker? No, because Batman has no self-control, and you can apply literally the kill the Joker rule to literally any of Batman's villains, because Victor Zsasz is a serial killer and Poison Ivy is an eco-terrorist. Like, it's like that. It's like, is Batman a bad person because he's actively not choosing to kill his enemies who are all psychopaths? Or is he a bad person for killing them because he's ridding the streets of Gotham of criminals or whatever, not realizing that he is killing people and doing exactly that? Like, would you argue Sonic the Hedgehog is a bad person because he actively chooses to let villains go and not kill them because he believes that they have a choice in the matter when he knows damn well that they're going to choose violence anyway? That's where the moral relativity comes in. In this sense, it's like, do I side with Fuminori because Fuminori views everybody as a fucking disgusting flesh monster and he's just trying to protect the woman he loves, I guess? Or do I side with, the sane people who view everybody as normal people as opposed to Fuminori who's killing and eating people? Like, in this sense, there's no moral relativity. Fuminori is just objectively in the wrong. It's actually funny because, so this entire time, obviously Fuminori is Japanese, he has a long-ass name. I'm not going to refer to him as his nickname, Fumi, because that implies that me and him would be friends, or I have any respect for this man. No, you are actively having sex with what you are viewing as a child, and also you treat your friends like dog shit, and also you actively vocalize how much you want to harm your friends and other people, and you eat people, so... Needless to say, me and Fuminori in real life would never be on good terms. I'd have probably killed this guy, if I'm gonna be honest. For real, it's not even just that he's like a fucking closeted pedophile and also a closeted cannibal, but also like just from his interactions with his friends, it's like no, you are also a buzzkill on top of that. Like you're a dick and a buzzkill and clearly a sociopath. I would don't want to be friends with you. Like fuck Fuminori. Dude, if I was actually, like, one of them, and I heard what he said to Yo the first time, where he's like, nah, you're disgusting and shit, and, like, she's like, she constantly talks, like, it's like, imagine you're in a group of friends, and this one friend, he's kind of a dick, but one of your other friends has a huge-ass crush on him, and she goes to, confess to him finally after us pushing her to do it, and then she comes back fucking bawling her eyes out and because he called her like disgusting and shit like that. I would whoop Fuminori's ass. I would beat the fuck out of him. Like you're an asshole, dude. Granted, like I understand it's like you like what you like I can get it if it's like if it just turned her down nicely, like oh no sorry I'm not really interested, I don't really I have a girl or I have a girlfriend or like I'm not just or I'm gay or like you know it could be anything else instead of nah I just think you're repulsive and I really hope we don't ever talk again. Like you're a piece of shit and you need your ass beat. Yeah, because then because then at least then in that scenario they would have been like, she would have fucking thought that it was like you were had stuff going on, or she probably would have stalked you and got murdered anyway. Since Saya just is okay with killing people like casually, like when she kills fucking Yomi, she just does it. And there was no prompting her to do it besides she came in my house to harass Fuminori. Like that's it. Like there was no rhyme or reason for murdering Yomi aside from I was hungry. One thing I really like though is not for like bad or for good, better or for worse. Song of Saya at least spawned a whole bunch of like other cool shit like memes and like other horror games. I think it was one of the inspirations for Attack on Titan, I believe. Like, alright, so I wanted to actually double check before actually, like, going on and doing anything, and I figured I'd do it post-edit. It wasn't Attack on Titan, I was wrong. It was actually all of the RPG Maker horror games, so stuff like Yume Nikki and Corpse Party, actually, if that makes more sense. Some of the weird shit in it. The funniest part is she is relatively tall for how old she's intended to be implied. Like, I wouldn't even really be mad about the pedophilia thing if they didn't say that she was like a child. Like it would be different if they were like, cause she's relatively tall, so you can argue she's just petite. That'd be different. If it was that, then I can kind of get it. But if she was like they actively specify that she's a fucking child and she's younger. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that whatsoever. Nothing about that is okay. I don't know, I feel like if she was blonde, I probably wouldn't, like, my opinion on it probably wouldn't change, but I think, well, the 10-year-old thing, I said that she was 10, so for all we know, she's probably, like, it's implied that she's probably, like, of having sex age, but definitely not older than 16 is the implication. Like, he says, like, oh, she's looking for her dad. And I hope her dad isn't, like, doesn't get pissed that I'm fucking her. It's like, what do you mean? She's like a child. Her dad's gonna be fucking mad, dude. What I mean by, like, having sex age, obviously, as teenagers, we were all definitely trying to get our dick wet, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that's a good thing. That is probably not a good, that's probably really bad, actually. But, so what I mean is, like, she's probably at the age where she would, like, puberty age, like, where you'd be thinking about it and shit. But also, like, definitely the way her age is implied and the way that he kind of views her, it's implied that she is definitely not older than 16, which is really, really bad. That's 2 years younger than the age of consent in America. Though, to be fair, in Japan, the age of consent is 3 years younger than 16. So have fun with that fucking information that I'm gonna definitely use to the fullest capacity. Never going to Japan or Germany ever, because the age of consent in Germany is 14. So, needless to say, Eastern people are fucking weird and gross and need help.